Hey guys, it's Tara here from Money Matters for Everybody. Hope you had a good week. I am joined again this weekend by you were such a fabulous guest last week that I decided to have you back. How's that?
Thank you.
So,
Glad you had like a mirror.
welcome. Generally speaking, that's a good thing, right? So let me pull up my notes here. So throughout the week, pretty much everything, right, can relate back to money in some way, shape, or form, right?
Right.
You have a bad relationship, money's probably involved. You have a good relationship, money's probably good, right? Yeah, I don't know. Everything kind of points back to money, in my opinion, but there you go. So I keep notes throughout the week of thoughts that I have about money and conversations that I want to have. I am committed to trying to talk about money on YouTube throughout the week. So I'll record it's Saturday morning, nice cold Saturday morning here, right? And so I'm committing to recording a video once a week that I'll kind of break out throughout the week and post so that it kind of is relevant and keeps activity on the channel. So this week, I had a couple of thoughts that came up. The one I wanted to talk to you about today was talking about negotiating travel, because that was something that came up recently.
Right.
So I didn't take detailed notes on this, so this is really going to be like an organic conversation.
Okay.
But I think I wanted to start off by giving, our viewers a little bit of an understanding or an overview, a background of what happened recently, right? We've been talking about, we get a spring vacation coming up here. Like, you want to go away for vacation.
Yeah. I'm always a fan of going away when we have time from work or breaks in the school schedule. And with my coaching and TJ's Ryan's schooling, the spring breaks coincide. So it made for perfect timing to try to get away.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that I am more of a homebody
Yes.
for sure. Especially since COVID, I think I'm definitely more of a homebody. I'm comfortable being at home. Like, I enjoy being at home.
Yeah. Whereas the boys and I prefer to be out and about and traveling and seeing new things and
I used to be like that,
adventuring.
but since COVID, I'm not like that anymore. So I want to kind of talk about step back, and we talked briefly about a homebody, you or not, but that marriage is give and take, right? And is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has to do their part. Everybody has to
Give and take.
give.
You have to give and take, and hopefully you're not giving or taking more than your fair share, right? But that you're in a, have a spirit of marriage is give and take, and that I want my spouse to be happy, and I hope that my spouse wants me to be happy, so we kind of balance and negotiate throughout that process. So before I go forward with that, I did have a little note about a fun fact. So what is your love language?
My love languages are words of affirmation and touch.
And touch. Okay. My love language is acts of service. So if you have no idea what we're talking about, I want to kind of take a pause here. I will link the book in the description below. But I think over the past couple of years, you and I have made an effort to invest in our marriage, right?
Right.
I think that's one piece of advice that I would have for our children, especially, is to invest when you get married someday, to make sure that you're investing in your marriage.
Right.
I don't feel like we were good at that early on.
No, we were too busy just surviving with the kids.
Yeah, just trying to survive.
And now that they're a little bit older and a little bit more self-sufficient, we're able to make a better effort at the investment in ourselves, our relationship.
Yep. And since getting out of debt, what that looks like now more than ever is at least once a year, we try to go away to a marriage conference or a marriage retreat. That costs money, right? And I think to some people that would be significant. To us, it's not insignificant, right? But we see it as an investment in our relationship. And that being said, it doesn't have to be a weekend away. You could purchase a book and do a book club together. You could go out for a cup of coffee. I posted about that last week. spend $10 and go out to Starbucks and sit in Starbucks for an hour and have a conversation.
Yeah.
You don't have to go somewhere,
Right.
right? And then to go one step further, we're not as far along as some people will leave their children for an entire week. I know you would love that. Be all over that, right? But I'm not there. I'm definitely in the place where I'm not there.
Yeah,
Spend more time worrying.
yeah. I mean, it could be little things like Terry said. Going to Starbucks for an hour or two. We make a concerted effort that once a week we get a dinner or some time out, just the two of us. It doesn't have to be a fancy dinner. It could just be going to the local pizza joint, or we've had a date at Arby's before. And the restaurant was closed for indoor dining, so it was a drive-through date at Arby's.
Yeah,
but
I think that's the key. So you can go out all out, but you don't have to, right? So if you're in your debt-free journey and you cannot afford a nice dinner out or a weekend away because you're working on getting out of debt, just remember that that's a temporary situation. So if you're getting out of debt, on average, your debt-free journey for most people is less than 2 years.
Right.
And so it's temporary. And on the other side of that, the highway is wide open for you to go have fun.
Yeah.
And explore.
Great freedom comes at the end of that temporary inconvenience.
Tons. Okay, so let's get started. That was a bit of time on there. So I did talk about how since getting out of debt, we budget in those marriage retreats and investments in our marriage. But also, once you get out of debt, you need to budget in some fun. And I think I could do a whole separate video to talk about this, about how, because TJ and I have had this conversation. So we're raising money smart kids. And our oldest is TJ, he's 16, and he does work to make money, and he does set money aside to save. And we were talking about how much money you can just have fun with,
right?
Because he doesn't have a lot of bills, right? So is there a number or a percentage of your money that you earn when you're not in debt that you can just have fun with?
Absolutely.
Any thoughts on that? Is it a percentage?
Yeah, it could be a percentage or start with a dollar figure, and then as your income grows, it can become a percentage.
Definitely. But I was just kind of like, I don't know, is it 10%? Is it 5%? I don't know. I do know for us, so we have a set amount of margin in our budget every month. And when we sit down annually and we look at that and we say, okay, we should have this much per month, which would be 12 months a year, this much per year. And then we decide, okay, this much is going to go towards vacation, this much is so vacation, travel, fun, and this much is going to go towards like reinvesting. So maintenance around the house, mostly maintenance around the house, right? Yeah. I have wanted a kitchen upgrade forever, and I'm not charging it. Like, I think that's the bottom line. So it's a save and pay cash and kind of take that in pieces. Okay, good. So we talked about how, is there a percentage? Maybe you get to decide. That's one of the cool things about being an adult and being out of debt. You get to decide what that looks like for you. But I wanted to take a second and say, I do remember Dave Ramsey early on having a conversation, I think, with a caller and talking about how money makes you more of what you already are. So if you have more money and you're happy, you'll be happier. If you have more money and you're angry, you'll be angrier. If you have more money and you're greedy, you'll be greedier. And if you have more money and you're generous, you'll be more generous. And I know for me, I want those positives. I don't want the negatives. So that's kind of part of that, that whole dialogue about money, right? We want to make sure that we're having fun. We want to make sure that we're giving money away,
right,
and that we're being intentional. It's important. All right, so let's talk about travel. You want to get started?
Yeah, I mean, like we said at the onset, the boys and I are always up for adventures and traveling. So, we've, over the course of 22 years of marriage, I've learned that it's better to come with an idea and kind of a plan already set out. So like I said earlier, with my coaching and his spring break coinciding, we said, okay, there's a week that we can
A
look
little
to,
window.
yeah,
A little
like
window.
1 week window for between now and the end of the school year, that would work to try to fit something in. So yeah, I set it as my mission to find something that would fit into that week, and came up with several options. Um, cruises, all inclusives, um, some requiring air travel, some we could drive to, and for each of the ideas, I came up with and pretty much an itinerary, um, a budget set out with different options for lodging, different options for, um, if it was flights, different flight options, and so pretty much came prepared with, okay, here's a bunch of options that I've come up with, and which one do you like? And so from there, yeah, we were able to come up with a couple, and
We don't say where we're going.
we're yeah,
There's some privacy.
I mean, we talked about it with the kids, more so with TJ than with Ryan. But talked to it with the kids, and then came to a decision as to what we could do with the budget that we were setting forth to try to keep it within.
Definitely. And I think that that's the important thing. So I would say, I mentioned earlier that each year we kind of sit down and we set out with a specific, now this is since we've gotten out of debt. When we were in debt, I don't think we were as intentional about this at all. We would plan a vacation and kind of plan a budget, but if I got charged, it wasn't like a big deal. We would just pay it off. And that, I think, the difference today. That being said, so we sit down at the beginning of the year, typically, or the end of last year, or beginning of this year, and we talk about how much money we have in our margin, how much we would like to, how we'd like to spend it, how we'd like to save it, how we'd like to give it, and kind of set out to do that. And part of that is vacation. So putting money aside in a bucket that is geared strictly for vacation. And then we talk about, and then we dream a little bit. We talk about where we would like to go. We already talked about this. I would like to stay home. So you would like to go where the kids would like to go. And can we take a minute to talk about revenge travel?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thing that people had joked about, right after lockdowns and everything were lifted. Everybody was, back able to travel again, so they were itching
Get out
to get out.
at
So
no expense
yeah,
spared,
yeah,
right?
people didn't care how much it would cost. They just needed to get out and go on vacation after a year and a half, 2 years of not being able to go anywhere. So, and I think that that's still somewhat out there and still happening, and you can see it in some of the rates, especially with airfare. I mean, the price of fuel is also
And inflation, right?
a big
Everything.
factor in that. But so basic economics, supply and demand. If a lot more people are looking to travel, that the flights are going to cost more.
It's actually interesting though, because looking at the seats available, they're not like at the capacity that I think I would expect, right? Because that's one of the things I look at. Oh, but maybe it's an additional flight that's been added. So maybe I'm not in
Right.
those details. I don't want to own that. But you're right. You were actually looking at a cruise out of Orlando, and the cruise fare was like right on the money, but the airfare would have cost $4,000
Yeah,
for us
for
to
that
fly.
for that one option that I looked at, the airfare was more than the 5-day cruise would have cost.
And then there's the other option, like we could drive, which would be really long days on either end of that trip. But there's options, right? And if you come prepared with a budget and a budget in mind, then you can realistically negotiate around that. I
Right.
think that that's my key. So yeah, revenge travel, wow, is a thing. And we had looked at We cruised last year. We were in December. We talked about how we cruised down to the Caribbean on Royal Caribbean, Liberty of the Seas, and the boys had a great time. Previously, we had cruised with Disney. We were a Disney family, I would say. We're no longer a Disney family. Our kids are older, right? They're old enough where I always felt safe with Disney. That I could take my kids to Disney, and people, if they were at Disney and they didn't want to be bothered by kids, they were in the wrong place, right? And now my kids are older, and
Ryan has outgrown the Disney roller coasters. He says, "Oh, those are baby roller coasters."
yeah, he's blessed to have a awesome amusement park in his backyard for sure. Well, an hour and a half, 2 hours in the
But
backyard.
that's back there.
So, okay, so we do set a specific amount of funds aside each year, and then we decide like what we're going to do with them. So there is one trip in the summer where we go off to New England because we have family friends up there, and we enjoy going up there. And my kids, especially TJ, it would not be an option at this point.
Yeah, so we have that. We pretty much have a summer vacation that is, the destination is pretty well set, at least for the time being. And then we tried to plan a spring vacation and a winter vacation as well, just so that us, from a working standpoint, have periodic, regularly scheduled breaks in our gear, so that we're not getting to the point of burning out or being overstressed at work, because we have not had a break.
Definitely. I think that was something else that, last year I felt like we went too long without a vacation. So you want to be intentional about how you think you're going to, and that's not to say, like, with all of this, you also want to be flexible too, right? Like, there are times that cruise vacation last year, like we had kind of had that whole week was planned for off. We were actually going to go someplace else. And the cost was just, again, revenge travel was just alive and well, I guess. Or the
availability wasn't
there where it had been historically. So we were able to pivot. And when it looked so 60 days out, that wasn't going to come through. Tim and the boys went out and looked for an itinerary that would work for our family and presented it to me. Again, I'm a homebody. I can stay home. I don't need to go out. When we were in lockdown, we had a 20-year anniversary trip planned to Hawaii. It was a beautiful trip, right? It was going to be amazing. But then COVID happened and we never did reschedule that. And truthfully, I don't even know that I want to get back to Hawaii. So I'm just you want to be flexible. I think that is the point that I'm trying to make, that plans, you don't have to be set into stone. You don't have to be set in stone. You don't have to have every dollar allocated for in your vacation budget throughout the year. Like, maybe plan a summer and a winter vacation, and then have some flexibility that if a friend calls you up and says, hey, we're going here for like a weekend away, and it fits in the budget, you can go. But when you're traveling with kids, it's a little harder.
Right.
I remember I joked about how, like, oh, we could go on this cruise without them, and it would be like a fraction of the price. So hopefully they understand how lucky they are, for sure. Okay, let me see if I have any other points here. So we talked about setting up a specific percentage or amount in your travel funds and dreaming where you want to go. And then how often you want to go away. We talked about our recent vacation experience, how that was like pretty much a last minute deal almost. I mean, in terms of you had to pay 100% up front, right? And there's no deposit for the cruise. And can I just tell you, like, all the props to Royal Caribbean. Again, I mentioned that we were Disney people, so we've been on the Disney cruise, we've been to Disney parks, and my children loved Royal Caribbean. So huge props
definitely
to Royal Caribbean, to all of the staff on Liberty of the Seas. Like, they were just phenomenal. And my kids have even commented that they were so much nicer than the Disney. I don't know that they could remember that though.
Yeah, it's because it's been like 7 years.
Yeah, so I'm like, were they mean to you? You can tell us. I don't understand. So anyhow, we talked about the marriage weekends without kids, despite mom guilt. Mom, I have serious mom guilt.
I do not have dad guilt.
He does not
I
have-
will gladly get away
he does not have guilt.
and not think twice about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Terry just mentioned, weekends without the kids. Even if your budget doesn't allow for you to go away, see if a family member can take the kids for the weekend or even just an overnight,
We did that
just
recently.
just so that you can have some alone time, some time, without the kids fighting in the background or constantly vying for your attention, where you can have time just the two of you. You can go out to dinner, you can take out and watch a movie.
Go to a park.
Yeah, go hike or whatnot. Just anything that you can do, with just the two of you, and not have the distractions of the kids, and you can focus.
I think that for a long time though, I felt like when we had TJ, I don't feel like we ever needed like alone time. Like he was such a pretty mellow kid. And then when Ryan came along, it was, oh my gosh, like this one was just
Someone please take my kids.
and when he was born. But I will say, like, I feel like um we have enjoyed being a family of four. And even during COVID, when they came home, I think that we didn't walk out of that experience hating each other.
Right.
I feel like we learned a lot about God's protection and God's provision during COVID, because I think that that could have went so poorly. The four of us being in one office, one room, and two on live lessons and two on meetings, and for the better part of almost 2 years.
Right.
So I think we were really blessed about that. But you're absolutely correct. Like you should find time as a couple to get away from your kids. And that's not saying that you're a bad parent. That's not saying that it's not saying anything about being the type of parent. If your marriage, you invest time in your marriage gets better, your family, your kids see that, right?
Right.
And they learn from it too. That more is caught than taught. Like those words are just completely undervalued or underrated. Your children will see you talk about money. Your children will see how you treat each other. Your children will see how you make time for each other. And don't get me wrong, like we get attitude from TJ quite often. You're going out on a date night again. When we were in debt, we did not go out on date nights. Since we've gotten out of debt, we go out on date nights. We try to go out once a week.
Right.
Friday night, Saturday night.
Yeah, even if it's breakfast sometimes, just
But I think the other challenge is it's really hard to want to go out to breakfast now today and pay $14-15 for an entree when you can go out and gather your ingredients and make them at home. The whole family gets fed for $14 or $15, and the meal is incredible. You've done it to yourself on that one. I'm so sorry.
I've got to start burning more dinners.
Yeah, so Tim actually makes incredible meals. I was just saying incredible meals. I think that you love, if you could do anything in this world and money was no object and hours were no objects. I think the one thing that would keep me from being a chef is the hours, right? Like you probably would work every Friday, Saturday, every weekend, all weekend,
Right.
every weekend.
Yeah. I would open a restaurant in a heartbeat. I love cooking for people and sharing my meals with people.
Yes, as evidenced by last Super Bowl Sunday, and you cook for an army. Definitely on budget, but for an army. So anyhow, so I hope that you have found some value in this discussion. That let's cap it off with like the things that are the priorities. So when it comes to vacation and you're out of debt, sit down,
make a plan, create a budget, dream about where you want to go and what you can do within the budget that you have, and
execute.
Yeah, just get out there and do it.
All right, cool. Thanks guys for your time. Hopefully you have a great week and get out there and plan some travel. Bye.